bailout, as you know, the debate on the bailout took place. And what Paulson initially said is, Mr. Paulson, want $700 billion to do basically anything I want. That means I'm going to lend it. Originally, the thought was, we're going to use this $700 billion with no oversight at all. No oversight, or literally it's giving one guy $700 billion. And what he's going to do with that money is use his judgment on how to prop up a failing system. And his original thought was that he was going to purchase what they call toxic assets. The bad investments, the bad loans that have made, the federal government would purchase it, strengthen these financial institutions, and then the theory is that these financial institutions, because they're hell of a good guys, they really are concerned about the people of Vermont and the people of America. What they would then do is loosen up credits, just because they're good guys. They'd free up some money, they would loosen up their credit, lend money to small businesses, lend money to other companies, stimulate the economy and create jobs. Now that seemed to me, for a start, to be a pretty dumb idea. Why? Because these people do not stay up nights worrying about the general economy, they're worried about themselves. But in fact, we had a big debate. And the second point that I raised and led the effort on in this, if in the Bush administration, what you had is a transfer of wealth from the middle class to upper income people, if what you had over the years on Wall Street, what people who are running these institutions making huge amounts of money. Hank Paulson himself, just to give you one example. Does anybody here know what Mr. Paulson did before he became Secretary of the Treasury? He was the head of Goldman Sachs. In other words, he himself was in the middle of this whole type of investment process. He himself made hundreds of millions of dollars. One year, a few years ago, he got a bonus of $60 million. What you saw on Wall Street is the most incredible greed that we have ever seen in the history of this country. You see guys who are 25, 30 years of age making tens of millions of dollars in bonuses because they are stretching the envelope. They are leading the effort in making these weird financial instrument investments and earning huge rates of return. So Wall Street did incredibly well. These guys made huge sums of money. And it seemed to me that it was wrong to ask the middle class, people who by and large were seeing a decline in their standard of living, were playing by the rules, were working hard. They were supposed to be bailing out not just Wall Street and all of the greed on Wall Street, but a whole class of people who under the Bush administration and its overall economic policies have been doing very well. So this was an example of the middle class and working families bailing out the recklessness and irresponsibility of the very wealthy, and that didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I came up with this rather simple idea. I said, look, this whole thing about the bailout doesn't make a lot of sense to me in general because I don't trust just giving money to these large financial institutions. But if you have to do it, why do you take the money from the middle class? Why don't you ask the top 1% who have done so well over the last 7 years, analyze where we are. We have seen in the last number of years, and it's not just Bush, it was before Bush, but I think all of these problems have been exacerbated by Bush's policies. We have seen a philosophy which essentially said that greed is good. Greed is good. And if I'm on Wall Street and I can make you 40%, you don't have to worry where I'm investing. You don't have to worry what I'm doing. If I own a factory and I shut down my plant and I move to China and I hire people at 30 cents an hour and bring the product back to the country, all of that is good. If I deregulate the financial institutions so these guys can do whatever they want, that's good. If I oppose raising the minimum wage so the people are earning terribly low wages, that's good. Anything that can make a few people money on top is supposedly good. Well, I think it's time to re-examine that whole philosophy and get back.
Ronnie Edwards, I live in Lincoln. I was a school teacher at the Red Cedar School, a small private school in Bristol. And I was in the position of earning around $30,000 a year. And my family receives health care through the Rehab Program, which is a great program. An interesting situation came up where they were going to give me a raise, and the raise of $2,000 would put me in a position where I'd lose my health care and actually cost me $6,000. But that never became a problem because I lost my job because the enrollment was down at the school. So what about healthcare and why is it tied to employment and other business?
Excellent issue. In my view, there are some problems which are very, very complicated and difficult, and some of them which are not so complicated and difficult. And one of the ones that are not so complicated and difficult is healthcare. How many of you know, for a start, that among the major industrialized countries in the world, how many countries are there that do not guarantee healthcare to all people as a right of citizenship? Okay. So it's important that you know that because our system is the odd guy out. And our system is not a system. It's a non-system. And the function of healthcare in the United States is not to do what is obviously what we should do, is to provide quality care to everybody in the most cost-effective way, right? To prevent disease, keep people healthy. That's the goal of a sensible healthcare system. The function of our healthcare is to make as much money as possible for the insurance companies and the drug companies. And occasionally they provide healthcare to people as well. But mostly it is to make money for the insurance companies, which distorts absolutely the whole delivery of healthcare. We spend, I just want you to remember just a few facts here. We have today in America 47 million people without any health insurance. We have more who are underinsured. There are many people in this room, in fact, raise your hand up and tell me the truth here. Tell me if I'm right. Who have insurance, but the insurance you have is inadequate. Raise your hand if you're in that position. Right? And then there are some people in this room who have no health insurance. So what you have is a situation where in the United States of America, about 20,000 people die every year. You know why they die? Because they don't have any health insurance. I have talked to physicians in the state of Vermont who tell me they have lost patients because people have walked in and the doctor said, why didn't you come in here 6 months ago? And the person said, well, I don't have any health insurance, I don't want any charity. You know, I thought that this pain in my chest would get better. And doctors have lost those patients who would be alive today if they had access to a doctor when they should have had access to that doctor. So what you're dealing with is a system which is incredibly wasteful. We spend twice as much per person on healthcare as any other country, despite 47 million having no health insurance. Why is that? Because the function of healthcare is for the insurance companies and the drug companies to make as much money as they can. What have we been doing here in the state in the last few years? There's a program called the Federally Qualified Community Health Center Program. 6 years ago, there were 2 of them in the state. There are now 7 of them. And what that center then does is anybody in the community walks in the door, regardless of income. If you're lower income, you got a sliding scale. You got Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, no problem. This is what you get. You get good quality health care. You get dental care. Dental care a problem in the area? Okay. We're dealing with dental care. We're making some progress in other regions of the state. Mental health counseling. And you get the lowest cost prescription drugs available in the United States. But to answer your question, what do we need to do? We need to do what every other major country does and establish a national health care program which guarantees health care to all people as a right of citizenship.